Jen, over the weekend, House Whip James Clyburn, an ally of the president's, called for a filibuster exemption on voting rights as a potential pathway forward for the Senate to pass that legislation. Does the president agree?
Well, first, I would say that Congressman Clyburn is a good friend of the president and certainly of the administration, an important partner as we work to get our agenda moving forward. I will say, though, in terms of how this works, the filibuster is a legislative process tool, an important one that warrants debate, but determination about making changes will be made by members of the Senate, not by this president or any president, frankly, moving forward. And it requires every single Democrat supporting changes. Now, I'm not here to provide a whip count for all of you, but that's not where support currently stands. So the president's view continues to be aligned with what he has said in the past, which that he has not supported the elimination of the filibuster because it has been used as often the other way around. I understand you're asking me about an exemption. We don't have any new position on that either. I would note that there are a lot of issues out there, and I think activists and advocates will tell you this, where you could argue that there should be an exemption. And this is certainly one of them. But that is what a lot of advocates, there are advocates for a range of issues, whether it's gun rights, climate, who are out there advocating for this. He's talked about his support for returning to the talking filibuster. He continues to support that. But he, again, believes that as somebody who was in the Senate for 36 years, we need to continue to work to find a path forward to do hard things, even when they seem challenging. And that's what he will do in this case.
With no pathway really forward, the legislation languishing, is there a plan B? Is he rallying, as he is tomorrow, public support to hopefully change the complexion of the Senate and then try and pass the legislation? It just seems like there's no kind of obvious path forward for legislation that he says that he wants to pass if he's not going to change the filibuster rules or advocate for that.
Well, I think, if you look at even the Supreme Court ruling just a few weeks ago, his view is that, and he'll talk about this tomorrow, is that sends the focus back to Congress. And we don't accept the notion, he's an optimist by nature, otherwise he wouldn't be sitting in the Oval Office right now, that it's dead. We don't accept that. We believe there needs to be a path forward. He's going to ask the Vice President to help play an important role in determining what that looks like. And we're going to continue to advocate, to fight for moving forward on voting rights legislation. And he'll certainly elevate the need for the American people to be engaged in that effort moving forward. Go ahead. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen.
Sorry. I was going to go to you if that's okay, only because she hasn't been here in a while. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Just to follow up on Matt.
Sure.
Clyburn was saying that he would like Biden to endorse the carve-out either publicly or privately, like get on the phone with Manchin, just call him, say that you'd like to do this. To bring up LBJ again, as April said, does the president see no role for himself in trying to press these lawmakers, given you say he's going to talk about the authoritarian danger of these voting rights?
Mm-hmm.
Does he not see that role for himself?
I think the president sees his role as somebody who can speak from the bully pulpit to elevate and advocate for the need to move forward on voting rights legislation, of course, but also to use every lever in the federal government to protect the rights of the American people to vote around the country. That is one lever, is legislation. There are other levers that are at his disposal that we've already started to implement and rely on. And I would just go back to what I said a little bit earlier, is that, if it were waving a magic wand to get voting rights legislation on his desk through any means, he would do that. But it requires the majority of members in the Senate to support changes to the filibuster. It requires. It requires, again, I'll leave it to all of you to do a whip count out there about the support. This is a Senate procedural process. It requires the majority of them to support it. What he can do as president is to continue to lift up, elevate, advocate, engage, empower people across the country, make sure they understand that this is based on the big lie, make sure they are as outraged as he is about efforts around the country to suppress and silence people across the country. That's the most instructive role he can play. I'm sorry, I've got to go because you've got to gather.